Allow me to say good evening to you. I am Mika Edaki of the AYUS International Buddhist Cooperation Network. Welcome to the fourth in a series of lectures on working with the people longing for democracy and peace in Myanmar. Welcome to this program titled Issues of Relief Efforts on the Thai-Myanmar Border and the Future. AYUS is a NGO in Japan that has been collecting donations from Japanese Buddhists and providing the donations to Japanese NGOs working on humanitarian relief, environmental issues, and poverty, etc. We were very concerned about the coup d'etat that occurred in Myanmar on February 1st, and we started a fundraising to support the citizens who are working for democracy. And a total of 3 organizations joined forces in that effort. Tonight, one of the three counterparts, the International Network of Engaged Buddhists, or INEB, will have its General Secretary, Mr. Mu, give a presentation. The INEB has its office in Bangkok, Thailand. It is a network of engaged Buddhists. Mu himself, for many years, has been involved in Myanmar in various educational activities based on Buddhist philosophy. Immediately after the coup d'etat, INEB announced a statement, and they started activities of various types to support the people who are opposing the dictatorship. Tonight, we will learn about the relief activities at the Thai-Myanmar border and try to understand the current.
今夜のイベントは記録用に主催者が録画をしております。参加者の皆様は
We ask the participants to please refrain from videotaping or audio taping this program. Okay, Mu, from here we'd like to pass the mic to you.
Konnichiwa. Thank you, Mika, and to all of you who are joining me tonight. And also thank you to AYUS and JNEB, Japan Network of Engaged Buddhists, for invitation for me to give a talk for tonight and to share what we are doing for Myanmar. I would like to start by showing the PowerPoint, which is the topic is focusing on the citizen demanding peace and democracy in Myanmar, and especially focusing at the border of Thai and Myanmar. I would like to start with showing a recap what's happening in Myanmar since the 1st of February. A lot of people come out after the coup d'etat and also demanding for democracy. There are a lot of tactic protests and also try to bring down the military. There are different groups of people. It's a citizen demanding, and you can see a lot of monks, a lot of the Muslim community from the youth also join from the beginning, even the youth from the Sikh community in Myanmar, even the Muslim generation sects. Number of nuns, Tilachin, the Catholic nuns also came out from different parts in the country. The Catholic priests, Muslim imams, indigenous, or the Nat, and even the Rohingya in the camp at the border in Bangladesh. The young monks still carry on their protests and supported by the Muslim community and other communities. The LGBT group in Myanmar also come out to demanding for democracy. And also even in Bagan, especially in the ancient town of Bagan, the upside down arms bow, that is a kind of the signal of spiritual, demanding for the military. And also we can see that a lot of the they bring a lot of the cultural aspect into this protest. And this is one of the successful and creative resistance and the protesting for democracy. After recap, I would like to turn into the issue between Myanmar and Thailand. You know, a few days ago, Prayut, which is the Prime Minister of Thailand, he entered into the 8 years of, get into the power in Thailand. They are learning from each other with the Min Aung Hlaing, which is Thailand also in somehow they try to copy the way that written the constitution into the Thai constitution. At the same time, Myanmar also is learning how to maintain into the power like in Thailand. This is a kind of Myanmar-Thai military brotherhood. And since from the history until now, this is the good time that these two military, they have been connected very well. At the same time also, we have see that they are like throwing the balls of Myanmar between the UN and ASEAN. And what is the question of Myanmar in the coming decade? From my analysis, we see that there are 3 possible scenarios. Maybe now it's come to the 4th scenario as well. The first scenario that is in terms of if the military succeed this time, it can turn Burma into similar to China or even Thailand, that military maintain into the power and control the people more and more. Second scenario, if the people win for this time, and that can also turning Burma into like Indonesia, which is military went back to their place, and then the democracy can be established firmly. The third one is with the Syria model, which is that full civil war, like in Syria, that we can see in the past 10 years. But actually there are some analysis also said that the 4th scenario could be something like guerrilla warship, which is that more suitable to situation of Myanmar right now, because if they want, if the country turning into the civil war similar to Syria, that they need the support from the neighboring country. And the neighboring country that is Thailand and China very much influence. Before they can turn the ethnic armed groups and other new arms that coming up, they need the support through the border, and that they need to get the permission from Bangkok or Beijing that to supply arms to that. That's why the 4th scenario as a guerrilla warfare could be taking place. Then come to at the border, what are the needs of the internally displaced persons and refugees? Right now, the situation is more than 7,000, the current IDP refugee along the Thai-Myanmar border. The number are increasing and could be up to 70,000 people. 80% of them are children, women, including pregnant women, baby, and so on. Why children and women? Because all the men have to be the porters or have to go to fighting. That's why number of them are very much on the elderly, children, women. And number is still increasing when, especially when the fight is coming up. The basic information is the complex power relation along the border. The Thai authority do not have capacity to support humanitarian assistance. people have moved back and forth across borders since March 27 until now. Spreading of COVID-19 in Thailand affects cross-border activity. Right now, they're very much control at the border. Even we have heard that in some certain area, the military in Thailand, the Thai military locked down the Burmese people, about over 1,000 people, and that we cannot access to that area, especially in the jungle. What are the needs? And what we have done also, we have supplied food, clean water, shelters, healthcare, sanitation and hygiene, paralegal, psychosocial help that is coming up, and advocacy work to support this. This is the food supply. We have to sneaking and also dealing with the local authority. And then we have to hire the truck to transport all the food supply and medicine and everything to the river, Salary River. And from Salary River, we have to hire the boat, which is cost about $2,000 US for one trip to supply food and medicine and shelter for the IDP and refugee both sides of the rivers, along the rivers. That also is each trip is take a lot of money. Of course, the clean water is very much needed. Shelters, otherwise they have to stay under the trees. And healthcare, a lot of them also are wounded and need some support or even get sick because of the fever or malaria. But even that, you know, with the COVID, we haven't checked that yet. Sanitation, hygiene also is a big issue on this. The obstacle, actually before I go to the obstacle, is about the, I didn't put into this PowerPoint, is about the paralegal. There are a number of the people are sneaking in, free to the Thailand side, and some of them arrested by the police. Right now, it's over 50 of them in Chiang Rai was arrested, and number of them in the southern Thailand, as well as in Mesot also. This is also is a paralegal that we have to hire the lawyer to help to bail out each of them. And the cost for the bailout is about 50,000 baht, which is around, you know, 1,800 US dollar per person after bailout. And then they have to be, some of them have to find a way to and need the status to staying in Thailand. Otherwise, they have to be deported. And in terms of the advocacy, also we are talking to from the local government until the international government, as well as the UN and ASEAN. Why I'm talking right now, my team and also the Thai civil society is talking with the National Unity Government, with the Minister of the Humanitarian. And we are discussing about how we can support each other along the border. This is also right now, discussion also go parallel with this meeting. In terms of the obstacle, the donation along the border were blocked by Thai government and army in the beginning, and a long discussion, negotiation, and sometimes they open it up, sometimes they close it down. And then lack of clear process and effective responsible body from government to facilitate donated delivery. Also, the Thai government didn't have the structure or the system how to help to support this. And a lot of support have to be done by the local civil society group as well as the Thai NGO in collaboration with some of the INGO. Need free fly zone for donated delivery because the fighting is still going on, and then sometimes it's very difficult to deliver any supply to the needed people. Need more support from larger humanitarian organization. As I said on the scenario, it could be a long term, and also with the guerrilla warfare, that number of people may need, help for the humanitarian relief. That's much more, and not just only along the Thai-Myanmar border, even in other states in Myanmar, in other areas as well, which is also my organization also help to support into other area as well inside Myanmar. And also one of the projects that we do is to support monks and nuns. As you know that in Myanmar, majority are Buddhists and a lot of active monks and nuns also joining the protests. And we are trying to help to sustain, for the protests, and also some of them were arrested. We also sent some money to support those monks was arrested and put in jail. Right now, about 20 of them are in jail. And because we have connection inside the country, we are trying to support that as well as those who still do ongoing protests. This is recommendations, which is I drawn from the current peace support network. 2 days ago, they have come out with these recommendations. I think it's good for us here to see what's the demand or the recommendation from them. One is to the Thai government to give protection and shelter to refugees fleeing Burma army attack and persecution. This also is the demand. And then to allow humanitarian aid agency to access and assist these refugees. To allow humanitarian aid to be delivered cross-border to conflict-affected ethnic community. This is the demand to the Thai government. Second, to international donor to provide adequate humanitarian aid to assisting and newly arrived refugees in Thailand, to provide humanitarian and development aid cross-border to conflict-affected communities in Myanmar through ethnic social service departments and CSO and CBOs. To immediately suspend all development aid to the military regime and review all humanitarian aid programs to ensure they do not legitimize or subsidize the military. To end all support for the failed national ceasefire agreement, peace process, and terminate the Joint Peace Fund. And then to the foreign governments, not to give diplomatic recognition to the illegitimate coup regime, not to sell arms to the regime, and to end any defense cooperation. Then lastly, to impose economic sanction on the military regime, including targeted sanctions on military businesses and suspend all investment, especially the large-scale infrastructure and resource extraction project until there is lasting peace. and power is devolved under the new federal constitution, giving local community the right to decide on their own development. This is the recommendation from the group inside. And the last but not least, I end up my presentation with this poem, which is the poet that he just passed away because of the military. And his poem is very touching. He said, they shoot in the head, but they don't know the revolution is in the heart. I think this is the very good piece of poem that to share with all of us tonight. I would like to end my presentation here, and then if you have any questions, we can have the dialogue and discussion. Thank you.
はい、ムーさん、プレゼンテーションありがとうございまし
Thank
た。
you, Mu, for your.
今日はいつも以上に質疑応答の時間をたっぷり
We've taken plenty of time for Q&A, more than usual.
プレゼンテーションをもとに
Based on Mu's presentation, I believe our participants want to have a dialogue. So we hope this will be an opportunity when many people will actively raise their questions.
はい、じゃあ、チャットの方に皆さんの方からの質問を書いていただきたいと思います。
We ask you to write your questions in the chat.
はい、すいません。はい、まず、多分そもそも INEB という団体が
I believe many of the participants are not familiar with INEB as an organization. We'd like to know about INEB and how INEB is involved in Myanmar. Could you explain that briefly?
Thank you. INEB, as the name, International Network of Engaged Buddhists, we are the network of the Buddhist grassroots activists and also the Buddhist scholar and the Buddhist leaders come together and try to respond on the issue that is in Buddhism is not just only dealing with the issue of the suffering as an individual. Also, we look into the suffering of the society and the suffering of the natural world as well. This is that's why a lot of the work of the INEB is working on various top issues, including human rights, peace work, working on women issue, on the youth, gender, children, and climate change. And we have formed a different working group through the INEB members in different countries. Right now we have over 20 countries of the members, and we come together and discuss on what needs to be done. And recently respond on the issue on the COVID. We also have been doing humanitarian support to our partner in India, in Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Cambodia. And if you go to INEB website, you will see much more and the latest report of the COVID mindful action, the full report on the website.
ミャンマーに関しては、これまで長く関わって
And you've been involved in Myanmar for quite a long time. Could you explain briefly what activities INEB is doing in Burma or Myanmar?
Well, actually, we have been started since after 1988, when the students, they came to the Thai border at that time, and we helped to support and set up the Jungle University, doing training to the students who flee to Thailand, and then later on they went to the third country. And then from 1994, we start to get involved inside Myanmar and working with the different ethnic groups and different religious groups in Myanmar. In the beginning, they asked us to help to train the new generation of the leaders in the country. And we provide the training, 3 months training for the leaders. And after that, they set up different groups and NGO in the country. And in the past 20 years, we have over 1,000 alumni in Myanmar, in different parts of Myanmar, and different ethnic group, different religious group. And from that, that's why we have the network to implement on the ground and also in different levels. Even some of our alumni, they become the member of parliament.
つまり、INEB としては、これまでも
So up to now, INEB has been involved in Myanmar in various ways to promote democracy, I understand. You've also been working in minority regions. Since you had this kind of experience, after the coup d'etat this time, you were able to take action immediately, I imagine. Is that correct?
Yes. As I said, also is in the beginning, also a lot of requests come to us in the beginning when they start and then cut out the telephone. Yeah, we also send the SIM card from Thailand, which can be used as a, in Myanmar, and that is to help to communicate between in Myanmar and also here. And also we also send the gas marks, when they do the tear gas, that also we send that to supply from the early days. So medicine, and also, even until now, some of them need operation. Also we raising fund through our partners and donors to support that.
そう最初はそういうガスマスクとか
At first, you were providing gas masks and guards to help the people involved in the civil disobedience movement to ensure them their safety. But from April or so, you've been focusing more on the people escaping to the Thai-Myanmar border. I get the impression that you're shifting more in that direction. Why have you shifted your priority? Could you explain the background why you're focusing more on the border areas now?
Well, of course, mainly a number of them are increasing at the border, but at the same time also is actually we didn't stop the work inside, but also we were, because the protests and the violence that military use is different from the early days. Right now is more slow down, but they're more using the way to arrest the people. That's kind of thing also. That's why we didn't supply like the tear gas marks, but we supply the others, especially on the, as I said, even the paralegal thing, even the food, the medicine, that's by that.
その抵抗運動の中で、
In this, so there are a lot of people who are arrested or cracked down on in the civil disobedience movement, and you're trying to support them more now, I understand.
Yes.
プレゼンテーションはかなりコンパクトにお話があったと思うので、もっと細かいところなど聞きたいことがあったら、チャットに書き込んでいってください。トムさん、なんか英語に切り替えてなかったみたい。
ごめんなさい。I'm sorry, I was in the wrong channel.
はい、あと、今夜通訳の機能を使っています。
We're using simultaneous interpretation today. On the bottom of the Zoom screen, there's an interpreting button. You can choose the language you want to hear from there. you'll be able to hear the
はい、
translation.
どうぞ皆さん質問の方まだ入って
Please
ないの
feel
で、
free to raise your questions. We still haven't received any questions in the
国境
chat.
の方での支援活動が多くて、先ほど
You're doing a lot of relief along the border. In your presentation,
カレンの方々が多いというふうに
we got the impression that you're helping a lot of the Karen people on the border. Are there people from other ethnic groups? Or are there any Burmese people from Burma who have escaped to the border also?
Yes, actually, we also support to the group along the Kachin and China border, as well as also in Chin State as well, and also the group in Mandalay and Yangon. That also even the southern area in Mon State and the Boy, that also we support that.
チンとかだと結構
In the Chin State, it's quite far. It's closer to India, isn't it?
Yes.
It's on the opposite side from Thailand.
Yes. But as I said, we have the alumni that we work through the alumni that we has been trained and also work with them for years.
ってことはタイ・ミャンマー国境に限らず、
So you're working not only on the Thai-Myanmar border, you're using your existing network to do cooperation in many different regions. Is that correct?
Yes.
ありがとうございます。はい、質問が入ってきているので、していきたいと思います。これから雨季に入りますが、国境の避難民、
It's going to be the rainy season. How are you going to help the people when the monsoon starts and the rains are very severe?
That's also a big challenge. That's why we regularly consult with our local partner and also alumni. And as I said, even today we have a meeting with NUG. That also we are trying to work on that too, how to support them if they need it, especially on humanitarian.
I see. あ、そうですか。
I see.
それに多分つながっていくんですけど、
There's a related question.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. There was someone asking, appreciating you. Why is the Thai authority not very eager to support humanitarian aid to these people? And are they applying pressure to you to prevent you from providing relief to these refugees on the border, the Thai authorities?
There are 2 or 3 reasons. First, the first refugee group came to Thailand in 90s. That's still here, still be in Thailand, which is that also they cannot push back, of course. There are still 100 to 200,000 of them still at the border. And then the second reason is, as I said, they are the brotherhood. They has been communicating each other, regularly. The third reason is about the COVID-19, which is now is quite spreading in Thailand on the third wave, right? Which is over 2,000 or 3,000 people a day. That's why they are really afraid of the COVID variants from India to come to Thailand. But actually now it's in the country. But anyway, that's the main reasons. But at the same time, also the another reason is they cannot spend that much their budget on this, because right now the next week the Thai government have to ask to get a loan, the new loan for the country, which is they have to passing through the parliament. If this budget is cannot passing through the parliament, the government will be dissolved. That's on the 4th of June. Hopefully that they can go.
You don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
じゃあINEB 自体には
So, is there any pressure on INEB itself? You said you were hiding some boats for carrying the goods. Has there been any pressure on INEB that affects your relief activities?
We also, as we are, we belong to the Thai NGO and established here in Thailand over 50 years. And we have also network, from the local, especially also in that area, in Mesot and Mesariang area. Also, we work through our partner, local NGO, local civil society group, also that we can, find a way. And at the same time, also we are trying to dealing with the more senior, into the high level to negotiate at the provincial level as well as from the central government. We are still working on that. Yeah.
でもその地方行政にしても今後
The local governments, do you think that the provincial governments will support you or help you in the future? Are they positive?
Well, they are up and down. It depends on the policy and the situation of COVID also. Sometimes they open it up, they set up the meeting, and then sometimes they disappear and, doing other things. It's still on and off.
I see. And also, this English question in English. Do you think with the COVID pandemic, it is very difficult to get neighboring countries and the international community to pay attention to Myanmar? How do you keep your advocacy against the coup going to you? So
that also is challenge. After now, it's almost 4 months. As you see that in the beginning, first 3 months, a lot of news come out on Myanmar. But right now, after the situation of the Israel and Palestinian, it's now the news on Myanmar is slowed down. That's why I'm afraid that it's going to be disappear from the mainstream media. But that's why we have to carry on and from the people side and also pushing from different parts. And the UN special envoys on Myanmar is in Bangkok. Even she also said she will not give up. She'll stay here and then try to push and see when she can go to Burma.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you for explaining that.
民主化運動に否定的な層は国軍系企業関係者以外はほとんどいないと考えていいのでしょうか。Tom さん。
Is it just the army and some industries that are opposed to democracy, or are there other people who are opposed to democracy?
Sorry,
is it just the army and just? Who is opposed to the democratization movement? Is it just the army and the company and no one else? So is the conflict between the military and the civilians mainly?
Well, as you know, the Burma have the conflict since, even, after the colonizations, right? Starting up, even the way that the British put up and make the border line, and that also is create the tension. Even you see that the borderline between Myanmar and Bangladesh, and especially, the group of the case of Rohingya with even the group of in the Chittagong in Bangladesh, those kind of things is come since the independence. And there are a number of ethnic conflicts and, later on come to another, the political conflict and military is control. This kind of the conflict is existing there.
ちなみに
Incidentally, how is the situation on the border areas where you're working? Are there any groups that are not supporting either side, or are most groups either on the government side or the anti-government side?
Well, along the border is quite clear. The KNU and others, they also support to the people. Even the number of the medical doctors, number of the journalists, number of the student activists and others, they came to the ethnic areas. And some of them also was trained that they can take arms that to fighting back. Even also I got some requests to support them, but we cannot to support that kind of thing. We are focusing on our humanitarian assistance.
やっぱり国境沿いもかなりもう話にもあった通り、
So as was just explained, the structure along the border is quite complex. There are some complicated power relations there, it seems.
他に質問が来ています。当初、タイ国内でミャンマー市民を応援する抗議行動などが行われていましたが、その後、トムさん。
There were some protests in Thailand to support the democracy movement in Myanmar.
Yes,
originally,
actually, since August last year, when the Thai students, the youth, the protest here, also I have helped link them to Myanmar. We have had Zoom meeting in August and September that to exchange the idea why the Thai youth and Thai students protest, you know, and even these three fingers and also the Multi Alliance and so on. This has been done of the exchange in the early days before the coup took place.
So is this still going on?
Sorry?
タイの中での動きっていうのはまだ続いてるってこと？
Are the people in Thailand still supporting the democracy movement in Myanmar?
Oh, yes, yes.
今度は
Now, there's a question to AYUS, I think.
What is the Japanese government's position to the coup in Myanmar? Is the Japanese government at least giving humanitarian aid to ease the refugee situation? という質問。すいません。私、日本人道支援に関してはごめんなさい。
Regarding humanitarian relief, I'm not very knowledgeable. Maybe some of our participants know about that situation. One thing we know is one of the things we're doing as an organizer is to prevent the Japanese government's money from going to the military in the name of aid. We've been, since early March till now, in demanding the Japanese government not give aid to the military government. Though we've requested this several times, the government of Japan is saying they will just think what to do while observing the situation. In other words, they're saying they're looking for the possibilities of what they can do to support democracy in Myanmar. The Minister of Foreign Affairs has said they might stop aid to Myanmar, but that hasn't actually officially been stopped. If anybody knows about the possibility of Japan providing humanitarian aid to the refugees, please let us know. You could explain it in chat. Did someone write about this? The Japanese government has recently been decided to give food aid through WFP. They're planning to provide food aid through the UN to a Rakhine state. There's another question. When you collect donations in Japan, is it possible to send the money through your organization to the children who need it?
Yeah, actually we do, and we assist on that and to different groups.
実際、私が訳すわけじゃないです。はい、そういうことです。で、ネパールのことが書いてありますね。
There is something about Nepal. It's a question, a comment in English.
Both COVID pandemic and the political chaos and crisis is at the peak. We are also dealing with the politics and the pandemic. Parliament has been dissolved and called for election in November. My concern might sound very crazy, but still I would like to post it. I like the poem The Heart and the Head. How can we shoot a bullet of compassion of our heart to the perpetrators? 死に対する質問、コメントであり質問ですね。
This is a comment or question about that poem that was given at the end of the lecture.
Can I say something?
Sorry, please write, if it's possible, could you write that comment in chat box?
The person who just spoke was the person who wrote that comment.
Okay. I see. Sorry. じゃあ、どうぞ。
In that case, please go ahead. You may talk.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think I'm just mention about Nepal because we are also dealing with kind of dictatorship now, becoming more and more autocrat. So we are also challenged how to deal with that amid the pandemic. So my concern is in such a situations, can we do something for the perpetrator also? Because definitely we need to take care of those, their safety, those who are our people, safety of the people is very, very important at the moment. But then are we doing something for the perpetrator also so that they can change? This is really wrong-rooted, conflict in Myanmar. But then, how are we going to do that? Can we change the people of the perpetrator of a small little village, a small little group where people can at least see it? I don't know, because we are also dealing with the same problem. How to deal with that? We are dealing with the victim, definitely, but dealing with the victim also is not going to change the perpetrator. How can we do it? What kind of message do we need to do? What kind of pressure, what do we need to do? So this is just my concern. I don't know, like maybe Mumu can share his opinion about it. Thank you so much.
Well, I think there are different groups also try since even the issue on the Rohingya, ICJ and others, that's still ongoing. And international mechanism sometimes is also very slow and very difficult. And also, as I, some group also even asked me about this. I said, we also, from the people side, we also have to thinking how to reform the UN also, whether it's not working anymore, that's kind of thing. I think it's take a lot of time and never succeeds anything. I think that, the UN is 70 years and now it's slowed down. It's become like a tiger paper. It's nothing else.
Thank you, Mu.
ムーさん、今の質問にちょっと
This question raised a thought in my mind. As far as JNEB is concerned, you are planning to focus your help more for monks and nuns.
Well, they're part of the movement. We also support two different groups. The you know, the students, or you know, the others, even other religious group also, that, as I said, this, we have the alumni, and also we work with them. You know, we also sending money to Kachin State to get the medicine for the Catholic and the Baptist group in Kachin State also. And you know, those kind of things, we are not only support to the monks and nuns. We have to go beyond our religious things, and sometimes that is otherwise it's become too narrow. We want to have, you know, even we are the Buddhists, we also can work with anyone and support and work hand in hand as a human being. Have to go beyond that.
今の話はその宗教リーダーというだけではなくて、そのどういう宗教
You are saying you need to cooperate with people of all faiths, not just the religious leaders, but the believers of all of those faiths should be supported in an equal manner.
Yes.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yes. But of course, there are the large number of monks and nuns in Burma is, you know, come to the front line, and they also need the support, especially the monk. They in Burma break into 3 groups. One is especially the senior monk, they support military. You know, this and some monk just meditating in the temple, do nothing. And then the young monk is also, you know, come out on the street, and they need the support. Even some of them was kicked out from the temple. I think that kind of thing is not fair in terms of they also is doing something for the large society. That's why we need to support that.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you for explaining that. There are some more questions, so let's cover them. The former ambassador of Myanmar spoke about reviewing aid to Myanmar. How much influence does the former ambassador have?
The former ambassador of Myanmar to where?
質問してくださった方、全ミャンマーミャンマー大使だから、どこのミャンマー大使か書いていただけますでしょうか。また後に
Could the person who raised that question be more specific who you're referring to?
すみません。また戻ってきたいと思いますので。
We will go back to the question when we get a clarification about who this person is talking about.
Okay.
Are we talking about the UN ambassador?
また英語で質問が来ています。
Oh, there's another English question.
台湾のドクターヨーからの質問だ。
This is a question from Dr. Yo in Taiwan.
Jan Surak always emphasized
Uh,
2 dimensions of INEB, including socially engaged and spiritually engaged. Please explain more on the spiritual dimension.
Well, I think also is we need to, why we do, you know, when we do the action, also is the way also to cultivate our inner peace. We are not just only work for the outer peace only. It's not dualism. It's become one. And how we can do in social engage and spiritual engage have to come together. And that's the way to, as a 2 dimensions. Yeah. If we are looking for peace, when we do the work and then we have more hatred, we have more greed, we have more doubt, and that kind of thing doesn't help to us to cultivating our spiritual work. Of course, it's not that easy to do that, as say.
はい、ありがとうございます。エンゲージドブディズムの考え方っていうところからの、
So that was a question about the basic philosophy of engaged Buddhism. If anyone listening is unfamiliar with engaged Buddhism, and would like to know more about it, we welcome questions on that topic as well. I would like to raise some more questions from my side then. Mu, at the end of your presentation, you spoke about the Karen Peace Support Network and its recommendations. Of those many recommendations, which of those recommendations did you think were most important based on your experience?
Well, I think it's always important, have to go as a package. Otherwise we cannot really, if we do just only one part, like we are trying to support them, the people at the border, that doesn't solve the whole thing, right? We are trying to work to kick out military from in Myanmar, but when people still suffering, there's starving, that also we cannot ignore, right? We have to clearly go hand in hand and also need different forces, whether, from inside the country, Myanmar themselves, neighboring country, international community, and others to really help for that. Before the issue on Burma is going to be disappear and become silent.
特になんか日本に対してなんか要求したいこととかってありませんか？
Do you have any specific requests to the Japanese government or Japanese people?
Oh, very difficult. I think you all know the context in your country much more than me, what can do. But some example like what you call the Kirin beer that they withdraw, that's kind of thing, the forces, because Japan business also is invest a lot in Myanmar, and some is cooperate with the military, right? That one part, and the aid to Myanmar from the Japan organization, that also is critical. That also need to go to the direct, support to the people, not to the government or military. And also recently, 2 days ago, I think I saw the article wrote about the Japan can play a diplomatic role, not just only become the pets of the US. That's kind of thing. Also, this can do something is, not just following the US policy.
確かにミャンマーの国、先ほどもちょっとお話ししましたけれども、
As I mentioned a while ago,
国軍に対してのお金の流れに関しては、
regarding the money flowing to the Burmese military, on the 24th of last week, Yuka Kikuchi gave a presentation. We are investigating and trying to make sure that Japanese aid does not go to the military. How are the possibilities for humanitarian aid in the future? You explained about how you can give aid on the borders, but is it possible to give humanitarian aid within the country, or is it difficult as long as the government is in the hands of the military?
There are some ways, and as you know that there are large number, over millions, Burmese migrant workers is in Thailand, and they also can be a good channel for us to contact to the group inside, the people inside, and that there's the way that how we can channel it to support them in different areas.
So there is possibility to give aid even inside the country. Thank you for explaining in more detail your previous question. There was a former Japanese ambassador to Myanmar who was in the Japanese embassy in Myanmar. The name is Takeshi Higuchi. He is well. How well is he known in Myanmar, and how much influence does he have?
I have no idea about that. Sorry.
If anybody participating has more information about this question, we would appreciate that you share it with us. Next is a question in English.
Resistance in Myanmar has been launching military attacks against the junta's military forces. Will this have the effect of weakening the resistance's moral claims, which seem so much stronger when they strictly adhered to non-violent methods? The defense forces of the NUG, I think.
Sorry, I couldn't get.
Do you see the chat?
Yeah.
Musa?
Venerable Bodhi, you asked this question. Could you maybe speak up and clarify? Bante, are you there?
Yeah, okay. When the resistance began to the junta's takeover of the government, the methods that people used were completely non-violent, civil disobedience. But now when I check the news coming out from Myanmar, I see that the opposition to the junta is resorting to military attacks against the army and against people in the government. And so will that have the effect of weakening the moral status of the opposition, which previously was gaining a lot of support from people around the world because they were using civil disobedience? But now it seems to be turning into a kind of a series of guerrilla attacks against the government. And so then people's sympathy with the resistance falls away.
Well, thank you, Venerable. I think that's the good observation, and that also could be another discussion. But for me, as I try to follow what is happening until now, I think the nonviolence resistance still ongoing. A lot of them, from different areas, and of course there are some, this is also, it depends on the media. Also, they also would love to pick up, where is the violence more than where is the peaceful protest. But of course, there are a number of them are trained and going to take arms and going to fight back. That also is increasing. That's what I said is the guerrillas warfare is coming up for the long term. And because some certain tactic with nonviolence, there is some level is very slow, and that also is sometimes is maybe not work in certain area. I don't know. This is also, it could be another discussion. Maybe might be good to invite some of our Burmese friends, to come and share about this, how they observe and how they see, because they're more closer into the inner than me. And some people who are even stay abroad also can share, because some people inside might be a little bit difficult.
ありがとうございます。多分これからかな
Thank
り
you for that. This is going to become a very sensitive topic in the coming days, I'm afraid. NUG has its own defense force. We're not sure how much a nonviolent approach will be continued. This is a topic among the supporting people in Japan, and many Japanese citizens are concerned about that. We appreciate that question.
Yeah.
はい、そうです皆さん本当
How are we doing? Mu is not a Myanmarese person, so he cannot talk on behalf of the Myanmar people. Anyway, if you have other questions you'd like to raise, we welcome them.
Thanks. I like the proposal inviting friends from Myanmar to share ってありますけど、本当今後可能であれば、そうですよね。ミャンマー国内にいる方はちょっと危険が。
People who are in Myanmar may face too much danger to speak out, but there are a number of friends of INEB from Myanmar around the world, and it might be helpful to have a chance to share with them. There's another question in Japanese.
Regardless of who the ambassador is. これ先ほどの大使のお話です。
We're talking about the ambassador here.
Support civil society, but very close to military work with them, and always protected them. Particularly, Ambassador Maruyama has done a lot of damage to democratizing in Myanmar という話、意見も、上がってきてます。
Here is the right person. You should ask Sam to share that.
ですね。これについてはちょっと多分ムーさんが専門と関係されているところの話ではないと思いますので。
This is not something that Mu is familiar with. So I think it's best to discuss these issues in a different context.
はい、他いかがでしょうか。
Are there any other questions? I'd like to ask about the future. Do you expect to continue the relief efforts on the border for some time into the future?
Yes, until Burma is getting better and get into that democratic way. We do whatever we can to support as a neighbor country and from the people from Thailand, and also we are trying, not just now, even we started over 20 years ago, and we still continuing whenever they want us to help to support.
はい、これまでのネットワーク、特に INEB の場合は、
In the case of INEB, they have a network in Myanmar through the work they've done there, and you're going to continue the sport activities throughout the country, I guess. Here we have another question. PDF. Are there issues of PDF along the? I'm not sure what a PDF is. Do you know what that is about? Is he talking about PKO or? Does PDF refer to a People's Defense Force? Oh, it is about the PDF is a defense force formed by the NUG. And the question is, do you see the PDF carrying out activities along the border?
Yes, and today I saw they keep the guideline to focus on the military, and also try to avoid on the people things. There are some guidelines that they suggest. Yeah.
ガイドラインはどこが出したガイドラインですか？
Who issued this guideline?
NUG.
So NUG issued a guideline about the People's Defense Force, the PDF, and how it should take action.
Hi, ありがとうございます。あと、もう少し時間があるので、もしよければ。
We have a little more time, so we would appreciate more questions. let me ask about the future. Oh, here's another question. Is there a strict monitoring of the Thai-Myanmar border or not? I had the impression that some parts of the border with Myanmar is not very much monitored or, controlled. What is this? How tightly is the border being controlled?
Well, it's about what, 2,000 kilometers. Very difficult to monitor, but of course they try, especially this time with the COVID thing, that they try to control that. But of course, there are a number of them came. As I said, that is like 50 of them now in Chiang Rai that we try to help to assist. Today we transfer some money to the in Mesai area to even buying, food and medicine or whatever, 50 of them, and try to help them to get bail out from the police station in Thailand. And there are some case also is in the southern Thailand as well. And also will be the big issue is about the, number of students, Burmese students in Thailand, and how they can continue whether they're going to return back to the country or they cannot go back for their security or whatever. This kind of thing is still ongoing and need to be really support them in the future.
タイは難民条約に批准してないんですよね。
Thailand has not signed the refugee convention, right?
No.
So it's not possible to be recognized as a refugee in Thailand, is it?
That's right. That's right. That's why they're still called the temporary. It's like a 20 years, 30 years temporary camp.
留学生の人たちもそういう。
Is that the status also for those students from Myanmar?
No, some students, they came with the student visa, but it's going to run out. And some of them, during the after the coup, there's the joining the protests, from this side or even online, or some of them send back money to support. Some of them are on the chart in the blacklist. This kind of thing is still is coming up.
これからのね、課題の人、特にタイ国内で。
Especially in Thailand, that will be a big issue in the future, I guess.
Yes.
There's some more questions. Where are the roots of Buddhist fanaticism that led to a persecution of other religions? Could you explain to the extent possible the roots of Buddhist fanaticism in Myanmar?
Well, there are a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding, also missing use by politicians or the benefit groups, make use of religions as political tools. All of these are mixing together. Yeah, there are a number of them. For example, Viratu, the monk in Mandalay, I met him. If you go in his temple, you can see that he putting up the photo from southern Thailand case. The number of killing the monks, but he did realize that those who are killed in southern Thailand is a Muslim people has been killed more than the Buddhist people in southern Thailand. This kind of information is not go through him, he got the wrong information. I even discussed with him that, he asked also, I said he have a wrong information, wrong thoughts. And that's why we are, as the Buddhists, we need to really discuss on that. But somehow, he was took side to the power that be, and that's ready to kill the others.
まあ、 それに関連しての質問なんですけれ
There's
ど
a
も、
related question.
社会、つまり外の平安を願う心と、
The
心の中、自分の内面の平和を保つことが、エンゲージブディズム
um,
だとおっしゃって
you said that in engaged Buddhism, it's important to seek peace in society as well as peace in the heart. Are these things that should be sought at the same time? And is it possible to seek them at the same time? The Buddhists have the Buddhist fundamentalists lost sight of that, or do they have a different thinking about, inner and outer peace?
Well, I think that it's a good question. I think Bhikkhu Bodhi also can help to answer that. Well, for me, it's possible. And also, it depends on cause and factors that is to create that happen at the same time, or the cause and factor that is create not possible at the same time.
Yeah,
What
I would say
about
that
this?
it's not possible to have real peace in society unless there's a significant number of people who have peace in their hearts.
またちょっとエンゲージドブディズム的にこの社会の平安と
When we think about peace we probably need a separate occasion to think about the peace in society and peace in the heart, which is an important theme for engaged Buddhism. We hope we're running short of time, and now we get getting many more questions. We'll try to answer as much as possible. There's one in English.
I think this kind of sharing information is very important because people have a rare chance to know about Myanmar situation now. I hope you and JNEB could have more chances to advocate the kind of sharing, so you can continue to get more support from the international community. This is not a question, more like comments. 質問というよりはコメントでしたけど。
This really wasn't a question, it was more of a comment. He just wants you to have more opportunities to talk like this.
And also, we need your support also. We can work together.
Yes, let's work together to support the people. Do you have any striking or moving episodes from your relief activities that you could share with us? Anything that really moved your heart, touched your heart?
Well, I didn't go to the border by myself, but I plan to go there next month. But most of my staff also went there, and they took photos and videos and things like that. And also, we have seen is really moved. A lot of people needed things to survive, which is also, if we see that is a number of people, sometimes they enjoy materials, but some people in this side of the some people in the world still lacking of a lot of things. I think we have to be aware of what we consume also in our life.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you.
最後の質問になる
This may be our last question.
逮捕を逃れるために
To avoid arrest, how many CDM participants escaped to the border to avoid arrest? Are they staying in a different place than the IDPs, or are they staying together with the IDPs? The people from the city who were in the CDM and escaped from it to the borders, where are they staying?
They all go to different areas, in the current state, in Kachin state, Chin state, and so on. Yeah, I think in 2 different areas, in Karenni, Gaya, also in Chan state as well. I think all of these, scattered into different parts of the country, especially near the border.
多分質問はその CDM の避難者と
He wanted to know whether the CDM evacuees are living together with the current IDPs, whether they're staying in the same shelter or if the CDM people have their own shelters separate from the shelter for the Karen IDPs.
Some is mixing, some is separate. Some of them have intention to join, to train as a, to fighting back. But some of the IDP, they are like just innocent, people was, in the battle. That kind of thing is a mixing and also separating. It depends on different areas.
別に一緒に行って何かこう揉めるとかいうことも。
If the people from the protest movement live with these IDPs, the villagers, can they live peacefully, or do they sometimes face, conflicts with the? Or do some people get more aid than others? Like the CDM people get more aid than the villagers.
I think that could be our next phase to do the research on that. But what we can do is we have to send through some aids to support through some of the leaders there. We cannot some area we cannot send directly or be there, because sometimes a lot of them are still on Burma side, right? And for us, we cannot stay over there. We just deliver and then have to return it.
はい、ありがとうございます。じゃあちょっ
Thank
と
you
もう
for explanation. It's getting close to 9 p.m. It's gotten quite late. Mu, we'd like to ask you about the future prospects. How do you intend to be involved in Myanmar? What kind of support is needed? Do you have a final message to our participants?
Well, this is just, a small part that we can do, and we are trying to support that. I think, as some of you said, is we need to really work on different levels and for, different approaches. This is what we do because, we feel that we have the connection to Burma, and we have been working there for many years. And also at the same time, also we want to turn the Thailand policy towards Myanmar. A lot of them they're talking, the government and military in Thailand, they're talking about the border protection, right? That's from the Thailand side. What we try to do is to turning the border of protection into the border of compassion. And that is, how to help to support those who are needed. This is what we try to do. And we need all of us here, that is to do a bit, that what we can do. And then from that will be a big, the change for the society, even not just Myanmar, can be anywhere.
はい、ありがとうございます。そうです
Thank
ね。
you. Through relief efforts, we need to change society. Advocacy is necessary. That should be done both in Thailand and at the AYUS and the international level. And by changing our heart, the quality of the aid we provide may also change. Those were some points that stuck with me. Since Mu and other friends of JNEB have been joining, I hope we can talk about topics such as Buddhist fundamentalism and the importance of changing both the inner world and the outer society. I hope we can have a time to talk about those things in the future. With this as an opportunity, we hope to plan such a program in the future. It's thanks to online means that we can do this. We were really happy to be able to hear your talk, Mu. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's give a warm round of
Thank you.
applause. Finally, allow me to share the PowerPoint with you again. I'm sorry to be advertising for AYUS, but We are still collecting urgent donations for Myanmar. The Burma Relief Center of Japan and Mekong Watch and INEB are working together on this relief campaign. It's not Here is the QR code for giving donations to AYUS. Also, the Burma Refugee Center Japan is supporting the people involved in the civil disobedience movement, and Mekong Watch is trying to stop Japanese public money from going to the Burmese military through advocacy efforts. I hope we can support these kinds of efforts. So we ask the members of AYUS to help with that initiative. I forgot to make a relevant PowerPoint, but on the 1st of June, it will be 4 months since the coup d'etat. Various Myanmar-related actions are planned for that day in Japan. FOA Japan website gives information on that. From 11 in front of the Cabinet Office, there will be a protest asking Japan to take a more clear stance towards the Myanmar junta. People of faith are also encouraged, have participated in these protests to pray for the people who died. We hope to also have a prayer for peace. If you are nearby, please join this action on June 1st. Thank you again, Mu, for everything. We look forward to the next opportunity to get together like this. John Watts, who isn't on the screen, is one of our INEB colleagues in Japan. We're working with him to address the issues in Myanmar also.
Hello.
Do you have anything to say, John?
No. Wonderful. Thank you.
Let's work together on an JNEB series of lectures. Thank you for the hour and a half. It was a long time. We seek your continued attention to the activities of JNEB, as well as AYUS and BCRJ, etc. So I hope to see you again in the future. Let me say goodbye.